Some people would rather crash than slow down.
Greetings and salutations, guys. Eric here with my review of The BIKERIDERS. This is a new movie from writer-director Jeff Nichols, and it is set in the 1960s, a little bit in the early 70s as well, about a motorcycle club in Chicago. And it's mostly done through the perspective of a character named Kathy, played by Jodie Comer. She is married to one of the prominent members of this club, Austin Butler's character Benny. And the framing device in the movie is her being interviewed at different periods by a photographer named Danny, played by Mike Feist. This role, by the way, for Mike Feist isn't asking a lot of him, just he's asking her questions. But Jodie Comer's character is really kind of telling you the story of what she saw of this motorcycle club and its sort of rise and its growth, and also what happened around it that made it more dangerous and a sort of nastier affair. Jodie Comer has been excellent in many projects in the last few years. If you haven't seen The Last Duel, please do. It's a great movie. And she's great here as well. Her accent takes a little adjusting too, as she's doing this big Midwestern accent.
Not to be different, but to be, I don't know, like he's wild.
But great performance here. Has a woman who, really gets sort of swept up in a life she would not have imagined. Even though the writer-director Jeff Nichols is a man, I really like that when she meets Benny, it's very much sort of the female gaze driving this. She sees this guy and he is a beautiful man and she is smitten and makes some decisions that, very quick decisions, marries him almost immediately. And even though there's a lot of red flags about Benny and his friends and their lifestyle, she just kind of gets pulled along into it and sort of then has to see what happens as it grows. Because the whole idea here is that this is a motorcycle club and it's a group of guys hanging out, having fun riding bikes, but that it's going to get, more and more dangerous, that there's a violence sort of simmering amongst them that will, it could be curbed, it could be sort of kept down, but bad decisions and some things outside of their purview will change all that. And, the other central character here is Johnny, played by Tom Hardy. He is the founder of this group, and he is the one who is making all the decisions. But I really like how we kind of see Kathy note that this is a lot of arbitrary rules in this club that have been set by Johnny. For instance, anyone in the club can walk up and say, "I challenge you for leadership," and they will fight it out. And she kind of, notes that this is very stupid, that he set these rules, they don't really matter, and yet everyone is sort of really going by them as if they're, biblical in nature, you must follow them. And her observation about that is an important through line in the movie. I will say one thing that I think, hurts this movie is that Benny, Austin Butler's character, feels a little thin. He has got a lot of screen time. He is one of the sort of central trio of this movie. And even though Austin Butler, obviously very charismatic, and he's playing this sort of brooding character who's gone all in on this lifestyle, and he's doing that very well, but I think has written the character needs a little more depth. We don't quite get what drives him, except that, hey, he's part of the club, and now he wants to be a good member of the club. The flip side of that, though, is Johnny, Tom Hardy's character, who I think is a great character. Now, Tom Hardy is doing one of his famous weird Tom Hardy voices.
You're scared of us.
That man lives to do weird voices and to cover his face when possible. Both, if he can, is the greatest thing. He can't cover his face here, but he does do the weird voice. But it's a great performance. And I think the character is just a much better and, more intricately conceived character than Benny. We get, the backstory on how this club even came to be. I really like that it's sort of arbitrary, and the real life movie that inspired Johnny and kind of set him down on this road that, he never would have imagined, into something so much bigger and growing outside of his control. And that he is sort of a fanboy himself. That is, he's put on the trappings of doing this, and now he's really gone all in on it. And we see that he loves these guys. They are his brothers. And sure, he doesn't want his guys to be getting violent with themselves or with other groups all the time, but he's also looking the other way when it's convenient, and he's ordering violence or committing acts of violence himself when he thinks it's righteous or retaliation that's due to someone. Because the whole thing is that, as Kathy is explaining, this is getting sort of out of control and growing, and there's other chapters of this group popping up, and maybe if Johnny had sort of kept things a little more controlled and been a better leader, that might have changed. But I really love Hardy's performance here, and I actually think the best part of the movie might be the dynamic between Kathy and Johnny. and their sort of battle over Benny. Instead of being a love triangle in any traditional sense, it is them battling over a guy they both love and sort of what will be ultimately the thing he's most loyal to, his wife and his marriage, or this motorcycle club that has really kind of become everything that he does day to day. And I really think that Tom Hardy and Jodie Comer, they're both great, and they have a couple of really key scenes together that are really wonderful, of them having this sort of understanding. There's a lot of tension between the characters while they also have an understanding of where they're both coming from. Really thought that was a great through line in the movie. There's an excellent supporting cast here as well. Lots of very familiar faces. So you've got Michael Shannon, Norman Reedus, Boyd Holbrook, Damon Harian. If you've seen Justified, you know the majesty of Dewey Crow. These guys are all playing members of the club. None of them get like a ton of sort of deep, introspective stuff, but they all have moments. They have stuff that gives you enough. I really think one place the movie, though, faltered is the depiction of the other women around this club, because we see them, but they kind of only pop in and out. Like Johnny's wife is in a couple of scenes. And then Damon Harian's character has a girlfriend or wife, actually couldn't even tell you which it is, who's in a ton of scenes, but we don't really get to know much about her. And I actually really wanted to know Kathy's perspective on these women, because this is the life she's married into. Does she have a close relationship with these women? If she doesn't, why not? And I feel like the movie kind of she could have done a lot more with that element. However, I will say that what we do get is really good. It really feels like, you believe this world we're immersed in. And, it's based on a photography book. And in fact, Mike Feist is playing the actual photographer who put that book out. So I think they had a lot of, a lot to cull from here about the look and feel of these guys in their lives. And I think that Jeff Nichols does a great job of portraying that on screen. I've really liked his films in the past. He made a lot of indie movies, including one I particularly liked called Mud, starring Matthew McConaughey. But I think this is another great one for him as far as just showing that he can really kind of put you into the lives of these people and they feel fully formed. Like I said, some of the other guys in the club, they don't get like a lot of, deep stuff about their lives, but both with what we get, the glimpses we get, the actors he chose, you mostly get enough there. And even though I wish Benny was a more fully realized character, I was impressed by the end of the movie, how sort of emotionally there was some good payoff. It actually hit me a little harder at the end than I expected it to, and I think that's a credit to the actors and to what Nichols pulls off. So, I think along the way, this movie is a good movie. It's not a great movie, but it's a solid movie. It's like one I certainly like. I was into the story. I was interested in these characters and their lives the whole time. The Bike Riders is in theaters this weekend. We'll see if it can kind of find its little place for itself amongst the juggernaut of Inside Out 2 and the Bad Boys. But I hope it does, because even though, again, like I'm not giving this a glowing review, I'm giving it hey, it's a good movie review, I think it's worth checking out. All right, guys, those are my thoughts on the Bike Riders. If you can like and subscribe, it would be great. It would be like riding down the highway with not a care in the world. I don't know if it would be that. All right, guys, take care. See you next time.